Hello and welcome, my name is Nate from Video Games Recon, and in this part 1 of 2 videos we're going to be checking out my favourite top 20 E3 2016 announcements that for me personally made the most impact and got me most excited. This isn't my list of what I think would be the best games discussed at E3, nor even the games I'm per se looking forward to the most. So as I said, this is my list of announcements that got me the most hyped as opposed to what I think my favourite games would be. Keep in mind this is just my humble opinion and completely subjective, so instead of losing your shit that the order isn't to your liking, instead feel free to post your top 10 or top 20 list in the comments below. Also, I'm aware that not everything was announced at E3. Some things were announced in the build up to E3, in sizzle reels, and in the case of things from Nintendo were featured in their Treehouse livestream. But nevertheless, I'm including them, as, well, it's my video, so I make the rules, bub. Anywho, I will attempt to use as much footage as possible from the conferences, even though with the way YouTube handles copyright and fair use, it may create issues. Nintendo, I'm looking at you. So I may need to revert to just using screenshots at times, or even re-edits if necessary. Anywho, enough jibber jabber, and without any further ado, let's do it to it. 20. First up we have Prey, presumably a reimagining of the original Prey. This game has been threatening a remake or sequel for quite a while now, and is finally here. Prey looks very interesting, almost a psychological thriller that appears to be set on a space station. For me, it gives off vibes of a Mirror's Edge aesthetic, but with a Bioshock or Portal-esque dystopia. And perhaps even the gameplay from Dead Space. Add all these things together and you have a very tantalising prospect indeed. 19. The Last Guardian. This game has been in development for far too long. It's one of those games that kept getting delayed, probably internally cancelled and restarted over and over again since 2007. Nearly 10 years this game has been in development, so I think it's time everybody stops talking about it, myself included, and it gets released out there into the wild for people to play. And now that it's got a release date of October 26th, 2016, we might actually get to play it within our lifetime. Maybe. Just maybe. No promises. 18. Dishonored 2. This game looks pretty cool. I haven't really played the original. For me, stealth games have to be really well done, otherwise I struggle to enjoy them. However, I've heard nothing but good things about this franchise, and seeing as I've got the original sitting on my PS3, I should really get around to playing it before the sequel comes out, to see if it's something I should be more excited for. As far as I can tell, it appears to be in keeping with the original, except with a bunch of cool new abilities and mechanics. The thing that really interests me about this game though is the world it's set in. It's got kind of a Bioshock or Fallout sort of feeling to it in terms of the way it looks and feels, which excites me somewhat. Anywho, definitely one to get hyped for if you like the original. 17. God of War 4. Again, another series I've not really been all that invested in. The only God of War game I've ever given a fair shake of the stick to is God of War Ascension. Probably one of the worst entry points into the series. And personally, I found the whole thing, aside from the scale of the battles, entirely underwhelming. Kratos as a character has about as much charisma as a sweaty ball bag, with his one and only emotion being anger. And of the only game I played in the series, its gameplay didn't play all that well. So yeah, not all that invested into the series. With that being said, this trailer actually made me care about a series that meant nothing to me prior. This world looks much more interesting and slightly more grounded. The combat looks improved, the map, although probably not open world, looks somewhat more open, and Kratos actually has more emotions than anger, even if anger is still his default emotion. Especially with the kid around to humanise him. I'd like to see that kid as a sort of companion, popping up regularly throughout the game to keep Kratos in check, and add complexity to the character. I have to say, a very impressive trailer to have me engaged in a series I normally couldn't care less about. 16. South Park: A Fractured Butthole. What to say about this game? Funny as ever, a great familiar art style, interesting RPG combat, even more so with its addition of strategic RPG movement added into the mix, a la Final Fantasy Tactics. And very much like the first game, a refreshing experience to all the games out there that take themselves way too seriously. All 2016 and 2017 in general are looking stacked, so I don't know where this game will play into the calendar in terms of time and withdrawals from my piggy bank, but this is definitely one to pick up at some point, if not straight away. 15. Gears of War 4. Although I always respected this series, with coming from a PlayStation lineage, Gears, for obvious reasons, was never that big of a deal for me. But seeing as everything is also coming out on Windows 10 now, finally I can get hyped for this game. And although the trailer didn't blow me away compared to some others, it still looks like a lot of fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously and is trying to do something a bit different to previous iterations. And isn't that really why we play games? To have fun? I can see how Xbox fans might be a bit butthurt with other exclusives coming to PC, perhaps giving new gamers less of a reason to get invested in the Xbox platform, but for me, someone who isn't a fanboy of any platform in particular, and just went where my friends or preferred games were, I'm super hyped about this as I get to play all these great games that I'd usually have missed out on. That is, if the Universal Windows platform actually works, because this most likely won't be going to Steam. So if Microsoft wants to make this a thing going forward, they're really going to need to make it as user-friendly as its competitors in the PC space, if they continue to double down on this whole play anywhere mantra. So it's not all sunshine and flowers, but still reason enough for me to get hyped for this and many other games. 14. Watch Dogs 2. Prior to the trailer before E3, I had absolutely no interest in this game. But that trailer, like many at and around E3, knocked it out of the park and really looked to be righting the wrongs of the first game. However, my hope was tempered slightly by Ubisoft's lackluster gameplay demo at their conference. On top of which, like the first game, I still haven't seen a single dog get washed. Sure, we saw dogs in the trailer, so there is hope of a dog finally getting washed in this game. But I'm chalking these things more down to their conference being too long, and having terrible pacing instead of the game itself not being fun. That said, definitely not one to pre-order, instead I'd wait for some reviews to come out before buying, unless people want to risk getting burned twice by the marketing machine. 13. Days Gone. This is a game that's been bubbling away in secret for quite a while now. Previously rumoured to be called Dead Don't Ride, which obviously clued you into the fact that it was a zombie game. However, most thought, myself included, it would be set in the Wild West, with your steed being a horse instead of a motorbike. And although that could have been more interesting, I'm definitely glad they changed the title, as it comes off a little cheesy. When I first saw the trailer, I was thinking it might be a Last of Us 2 teaser. Then when it became apparent it wasn't, I was worried that it'd be a Last of Us rip-off instead. And although I'm kinda getting sick of zombie stuff, luckily after seeing these new zombies, or freakers as they're calling them, the fears of it being a rip-off or generic zombie game was quelled to a degree after seeing the hella cool movement of the zombie horde. Something akin to World War Z, which fortunately set this game apart somewhat from its contemporaries, thus making me super hyped to see more and if this game can truly live up to its potential. 12. Battlefield 1. The only competitive shooter that paid attention to its audience this year and gave gamers what they want. Everybody's sick of space or future shooters, and that's all we've been getting for the past 5 or 6 years. It was smart for DICE to go to a World War I or II era, and even smarter in my opinion to make it an alternate World War I game, so as they can lean on history that isn't 100% accurate so as to make the game more fun. I'm sure all the other developers will play catch up and do something similar in the coming years, but if they don't get on this zeitgeist quickly, they're going to be too late to the party and no one's going to give a fuck about their offerings. As someone who is oversaturated and disinterested with shooters at the moment, and isn't per se a Battlefield fan, not only is the setting interesting and they had a great trailer, watching the hour-long gameplay stream actually got me pretty hyped. So I don't know if I'll get a competitive shooter this year, but if any multiplayer shooter has piqued my interest, it's definitely this one. 11. We Happy Few. This game gets more and more interesting each time I see something about it, and this trailer is no exception. I'd say it hit it out of the park, but it's more like they bludgeoned it to death. Literally. This game has an Orwellian psychological dystopia written all over it, and very much appears to be an indie Bioshock, but perhaps more fucked up if such a thing is possible. I don't really know a whole lot about it in terms of gameplay. The only things I've heard about the game is that you're tasked with escaping the city, having to blend in with the inhabitants, who are all hopped up on joy, sometimes taking small doses of the drug yourself so as to blend in, and that apparently the levels are going to be procedurally generated. Aside from that and a creepy atmosphere, not a whole lot is known about it at this point, but definitely one to add to my watch list. So, that was part 1 of my top 20 best or most hype announcements of E3 2016. There will be a link on screen now or in the description to part 2 as soon as it's ready. Or if you're already subscribed, you can just wait till it pops up in your feed. Either way, this just leaves me to say if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe for more BS of a similar nature. Thank you and goodbye.